Hello again, this is Core Game Review, and I thought I would do another Amnesia tutorial on some of the other things that you don't really learn in other tutorial videos, or that most people don't talk about in general, which is realistic meshing. For those of you that don't know, what meshing is adding basically stories and life to your level through adding props and objects like these chairs, making these tables, making these bookshelves, fireplace, adding fire. This room I haven't completed yet, but I have done some meshing in, and I want to show you some tips and tricks of like how to make your meshing a little bit better and more realistic. So to begin with, I like to, whenever I create a level or an area in a mod or a game, I always like to think of a little story for each section that I'm building that all kind of connects into a larger story. So once you eventually solve this door puzzle, and you go through these back doors and you get into here, the bar room, this enemy spawns up here and you can see him walking down the hall. It's meant to be like a tension moment, but this area is meant to be almost a small area of relaxation that was for, in my case, the story of this house of murderers. It's kind of like a guild, a torture guild, if you will. And you have woken up in a torture cell after walking home from a bar. You're basically abducted, and you escape the room, and you're basically trying to escape the house and the dungeon, while this guy is chasing you, who spawns this guy over here. But he's not active right now. But anyways, so this is like where I wanted to have a little area where they were human, basically. You know, they weren't very barbaric, where they're just showing, you know, there's lots of members of this guild, or was, and they had a place where they went and relaxed and shared stories and stuff. So we're going to make it more believable, as if there actually were people living in here and they were doing things, and keeping in mind all the attention to detail. Like, I even have little bottles back here. This is just very rough. These side things are due to change because they're kind of ugly. Another thing that's also important is remember that you can always use meshes for many different things. Like, for example, this, if I pull it up, is actually that that I've stretched to make a liner there. And I did that so it looks a little neater, because otherwise it just kind of looks like that. And this table isn't perfectly flat, so you kind of get that. You can see right through the other meshes on top. And you also got to remember when you're laying your mesh that it's not always like you want it there. For instance, if I delete these, see that graphical glitch? It's because I was creating a table in here. I basically wanted a counter, and what I created the counter out of was basically these bookshelves. So if I raise it up, it's actually a bookshelf. So that's another cool little trick about when meshing your levels, is all meshes can be used for more than what they appear to be. And that should be kept in mind when creating your levels. For my instance, like where if I don't have you know, modelers working for me all the time, and I can't get necessarily say, hey, I need this, I need that. But maybe I'll do a video about actually creating your own assets in Maya and throwing them into Amnesia. But for now, let's go ahead and just start meshing something. So for this table here, I think I'm just going to make a little, you know, drinks or something on here. So if I go into my entities window, little ghost man here. Let's see, what do I want? There's debris, decals, desktop. Where are bottles again? What did they? Bottle. There we go. Bottles are in bottle. So we can add some things to these shells. You know, we can. Where are they? Oh, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to snap my grid so I can see what I'm doing, or where I'm placing these objects. Oh, let's just change the axis. Where the heck? Come on. Okay, well anyways, that should work. So I'm just going to place... why are you being difficult? There we go. I think that's where I want it. So let's place a bar. Still doing that, but whatever. Now, when you're placing these, it's easier to get it exactly how you want without the snap tool on. I mean, you can have it on, that's fine. I would recommend only having the snap on generally if you really want preciseness. Generally, see, like, if now it's just going to be difficult and like probably be floating a bit. That's another thing you should always check, is if you're floating. It's a very common mistake in level design. So I'm just going to drop this down without the snap on. Oh, get off. There we go. Just drop it down. Just put it over here. And you should always remember, whenever you're placing stuff, just add a little more life to it. And it's easy as twisting it a little bit. Just making it look like it was used. And now I'm going to add a couple cups here as if there was two guys drinking it. Let's see. Probably in kitchen. Pots. Let's see, what other? Ornament. That's where we'll find some goblets, I'm sure. Come on. So we got our cafe. Let's scroll down through here. And we'll just go through these and see what we have. I know they have goblets somewhere in here. Come on. There you are, you bastard. So we'll just put these up here. On the table, like there was two guys sitting here having a couple drinks. Also, if you notice, most of my furniture, it's not perfectly square or positioned. It's just meant to be look like as if it was used, and there's no one really giving orders of like how things need to be put back in place or anything like that. So I'm just going to move these around to kind of different locations. Add a little more life to it, randomness. Let's see. Yeah, that'll do. You can also affect the scales depending on the size. Like, say I want a smaller glass, I can go to the XY here and like go 0.8, 0.8. So now we got two smaller type glasses instead of like these big goblets. It's also a good way of having separation in cup sizes. Say you want to have different sizes. So let's look at scale wise and see how that kind of looks. Yeah, it looks kind of nicer. Maybe a little bit bigger. We'll make them 0.9. Oops. No, let's not make them gigantic. Yeah, I like that size better than that. That just looks too big, in my personal opinion. Depends on how you feel about it. But that's not the only thing we can add here. We could add candles, we can add a book. Meshing is probably one of the most tedious parts. I'll add a map, as if, no, that's too big. As if, you know, they were talking about something important here. You know, just throw a book on there. It's easy to forget sizes and eventually get too much clutter. So, I mean, you can always change things later on depending on how much meshes you actually want on there. So I'll do something like that, and now we have a nice little table. And if we show it with the lighting, you know, we got this cool little scene here now where it looks like two people are reading and enjoying their goblet. I mean, that's a simple example. So now let's do some decorative randomization to look like as if, you know, not everything was just placed here. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to show you an example of a good way to fill shelves, and then the bad way. So I have examples in this level somewhere. Where are you? In this room. In my their planning room, I like to call it so far, or, you know, where they have their meetings. So I made it look like there's a little bit of, you know, activity going, and they're going through documents and planning the stuff. But this bookshelf here is a good example of adding life to a level. Kind of hard to see it with that. But anyways, they're not just like straight stacks of books across. There's ones on their sides, you know, they're straight up. You know, there's not just books, there's a little lamp. With some scripting, you can also cause cool effects with these kind of things, like where books will fall out or fly out, or they'll fall out and turn into other books, and that you can examine for hints and different things throughout the level. So if I open up my other... So this is my library level. This was a bit of a problem because I originally wanted to have this part of my other room, but because of all these books I have in here, it was causing problems and severe lag. Because if you look at these books, here I deleted some so you can kind of see the sides and stuff. There's just all this extra geometry. Now, if you look at all this, look at how many extra polygons like just those 3 bookshelves are, compared to if we look back at my other room where I did just little messy organized books on a shelf. Doing that actually saves geometry and also adds a lot of life to your level. This level, however, I did want it to feel like a library. So going back to my mansion level, I'm going to discuss a few more ideas behind generating stories to create more believable scenes. For instance, up here, I did a little bit of work yesterday. I just added these tables and had these things knocked over. If we look at this table over here, this is a good example of what I mean by adding little stories. Come on. So I added this little decal, and that's a wine stain, pool wine, and I put a goblet on his side, right? Just a little scene, you know, two guys were discussing something over a map, maybe where they're gonna go next to plot their next kill or whatever. And somewhere along the lines, this drink got spilled, something happened. As like generally the house is pretty abandoned at the moment. And another example would be down here. If you look at this, I have this little shelf, which I'm obviously going to be putting more stuff into. But I have some cracked bottles on the ground that have fallen out over time, and they've spilt wine everywhere. So it just adds a little bit more like life to the scene, thinking that something actually happened here. And so another good idea, like since this is going to be like my bar area, then I'm probably going to be putting glasses on here, you know, some bottles on top, and probably filling these shelves with bottles, more so than I would be with books. And I'll also probably be decorating these walls a lot more with some more paintings and decorations, banners, and things of that nature. I may eventually want to incorporate some windows up here, but from original design, my library was supposed to be directly behind this, which it is, kind of. You go through this door and it goes into this area, which will load you into the library. And as I say, I did that to save RAM so that I could make this level more pretty, and also have the other level look just as pretty without slowing down the game itself. So another example of like decorating, let me just turn on this so you can see up here, is how I have these paintings up here, just to add a little bit of culture to this room, to give it a feeling of, you know, people went in here all the time, and, you know, it wasn't just any other place, it was a place where they went to relax and to discuss and drink. And so yeah, I also have my own kind of custom thing I've made here by taking a stuffed head dog and basically mounting it into a shield. I'm probably going to be changing it up a little bit later so you can't see this eagle as much. And also you can use meshing to convey points. What I mean by this is this guy here, for my mod in particular, I'm going to say that, you know, he's the main guy that started this family of killers or whatever. To make this stand out, I have him centered on the wall with this kind of shrine beside him, basically. where it kind of points out that he's in the middle, he's the head. He's the head guy. That's what I was going for with just like designing the decorations on this wall. So decorating in design is something you should really be paying attention to, because I mean it's just surprising how much better you can get your levels to look if you're trying to actually convey a story with how you're doing your meshing. So the next thing I want to kind of cover is other creative meshing for different kinds of areas, not necessarily in a house. This is the first section of my mod where you're basically escaping this dungeon, and I'll show you some creative ways of making scenes with stories. For instance, this is what I call a kitchen. This is where they would take the bodies and basically cook them and eat them and gut them. So if we go in here, we can kind of get a sense of what was going on just by looking at it without any text or anything. So over here we have our saw. You know, we got our blood stains with the bodies. These are all little decals too. I've added just for like a little bit more illusion. Broken plates. Over here we have the table where they did their gutting. So there's some limbs, and then there's a bunch of intestines and stuff like that. Over here is where they did their cooking, and this is another example of creative ways to turn meshes into something that they weren't normally supposed to be. So here I have a roto cooker thing, and I've placed these corpses on them, these torsos that are on top of a fire that can be rotated to cook. And there's also some gutting going on here, and I have a knife in the back of this guy with just skull there, just for a little bit cooler looking effect. And I also have a roto leg cooker over there, and also little things like adding chairs just to make it have some presence. This reminds me of the chair from Green Giant for some reason. I don't know if you guys remember what that is, but anyways. And so yeah, and this is where they drag the bodies off and drag them over to the cooker. Now, this is something that was used in like medieval times as a torture device. Basically, they would throw you in this thing and cook you alive. So what I've done is inside, I've actually put bodies in a bunch of body parts. So as the player opens that up, you get a nice little creepy surprise of what's in there. There's also bodies on the floor, little sacks over here. This is just to add, illusion that things were happening here. You gotta remember that. So here's another example of a little story. There's a plate with some cooked human flesh, and I wanted to convey that, these people are human, but they're a little insane, hence the little Jesus, and they're eating human flesh. But I also put through this book in here, they're kind of civilized, but they have a little bit of a sick passion. There's also other things you can throw ambience levels. Little piles of rotten apples. There's also some rat corpses, I believe, laying around here somewhere. Over here. Little pile of dead rats. Some bones. Even some rocks, just like little rocks that can be picked up and moved around. And a bloody hammer in a bucket and some barrels. So that's an example of how you can add a lot of flavor to a themed room like this one, which is supposed to be, the cook room. I have a few areas like this one. We'll go and look into the bleeding room, as I like to call it. There's another fireplace in here, but this is like a little more of a ritual area that I was going for. And I wanted to make it look old and used and kind of dirty, so I add some of these slime decals over here. And I did some creative meshing with this. There's a lot of blood decals on this one, as you can see. But for the most part, what this really is these spike girder welders, and this is just like a bed. A wooden cotton bed that I have basically turned into what it is now, which is like a bleeding device. So never be afraid to take meshes and turn them into things that they're not, because you can get cool things like this. I also have some spider webs. Also, you can make your walls and stuff look really cool by adding small things like these decals, which are basically stains, which adds a little bit more flavor to the room. And I have another story over here where it's basically like this is like their ritual. You know, you got like their ceremonial knife in their books and their study. I also wanted to make it look, you know, kind of creepy. So I got a pile of bones over there, and we got some spider webs all over the place. And a few random boxes and things of that nature laying around. So if we go into my bridge room, which is in here, a lot of script stuff going on, but a lot of lights down here, as you can see. I did this on purpose because if you look at it, you can see that the wall actually has this reflecting looking water on it with the green glow. How I did that was with spotlights. In the spotlights, you can go into the gobos, or however you like to pronounce it. You can go in here and you can pick different shadows and things you want it to convey. So I can change it to other things. I don't know if you can really see the difference there, but anyways, you can do that. And basically that's all it's doing is it's just projecting a reflection, which makes it look like the water is reflecting something. Because if I delete that, it would just be a plain green look, and it's not as nice as adding that. So you can really also improve the meshing with lighting, which I guess I should have showed you this in the lighting video, but oh well. So another example of some creative meshing is I needed a device for my bridge chain to connect to, because you throw something at this and it falls down to break this chain. And I didn't really have a piece for it. So what I did, because I have my roof is so high, so I took some pillar pieces and I took those spike welders, and a piece that was originally supposed to be for the cistern base, I believe, or one of them. Anyways, this is supposed to be like a bridge connector piece, but I turned it into something else by adding this pillar to connect it to my roof. And then I turned it into basically a device that was meant just solely to hold up this bridge. And I also have some decorative eagles and stuff here, and these are actually here to basically hide this. You know, there's a hole there. So you gotta remember that sometimes meshing is used to hide seams in levels. Another example of creative meshing, which is probably my favorite part, or favorite thing about this level in particular, is this wall. I'll put on a barrier light so you can see it better. This is my little wall of death in here. I really wanted to have a wall of like corpses or something on it, like sewn together, but with what I was given in this engine, I didn't really have anything that could do that very well. So I I resorted to doing this, an alternative, which is like a spike wall of death, which an enemy chases you through. Once you get here, an enemy spawns over here, and your character will turn around to look at it and scream. And then you gotta run through this, you know, room of death into the other room. So that's like my favorite area there. I also have a little tunnel escape with a bunch of scare stuff in it. And I also have where the player starts, which is this torture room, which has a whole bunch of stories in it. So this guy has had his head cut off, and, you know, you can see the blood splatters from it on the back wall. Pool of bloods where it has drained onto the floor. You know, where the little areas where people have been tortured. But that guy's head, I actually like put it over here, and I left the saw on the table that cut off his head. You know, like some guy came in here and he was just sitting there admiring the head. And so this guy has like a little stain here where blood's been dripping down, where he's had his neck slit. And this ladder I put here as a hint to where players have to go. And how they get there is they take these boxes basically, and they stack them to get up and escape and get up this ladder. before the guy comes and breaks down the door and comes in here and kills you. Also some small things in here for ambience, like I think I have a fog. Where is it? I think there's fog. Yes, I have a very light mist on the ground. I have some chains, little things like that, and I think I even have little cockroaches running around. Yes, I do. There's little bugs and stuff in this area. I want to look kind of dirty and grungy. But I think that's about all I want to show you guys for meshing. Hope you get some useful things out of it, and then I'll see you guys next time.